Hey everyone, my name is JJ Paulson. I'm a student entrepreneur and co-founder of the tech startup Perch. I want to invite you for coffee and conversation on our weekly series, Coffee Talks. We're here to showcase the heartbeat of Gainesville's entrepreneurial spirit. I want to give a quick thank you as this series is made possible by Afternoon Roasting and Seven Ashes Productions. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and let's explore the exciting world of entrepreneurship together. Now let's meet this week's guest.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to another Coffee Talks. Today is somebody who I'm excited to introduce to the community, even though I feel like you've been here and a lot of people know you from the business community standpoint. But in terms of student entrepreneurship, our aim with this series is to then really share some of the business owner stories so that the students are familiar with what's happening here in Gainesville, but also more specifically, there's just a lot of great entrepreneurs around that they don't know about, right? And so our hope today is to learn a little bit more about you, your business. But before we start off, thank you so much for Afternoon Roasting to give us the delicious coffee that we have weekly here, and then also for Seven Ashes Productions to capture, really for us, what's really important is that being on the entrepreneur journey, it changes constantly, right?
Yes, it does.
But I think from year to year, it changes as well too. So our aim is to have an archive to look back and say, okay, well, back in 2023, we had this conversation, and now you're in a different place, right?
Yeah, that's a great
and so
idea.
thank you so much for Seven Ashes for helping us not just capture that, but also later on piece it together, both for Santa Fe and also the community at large. If you're good to go, let's get started.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
To kick things off, Susanna, I've known now for going on maybe 2 years or so. You were co-working with us.
Yep.
Your husband as well too.
Yep, for a
and then
long
from
time.
there, we got a chance to know each other a little bit better.
Exactly.
And the more I know you, the more I'm just really not impressed is not necessarily the word, but really just like in awe of the things that you've built.
Well, thank you.
And not only build, but also the way that you go about it, because really the way I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're primarily in the hospitality business,
Yes.
right? And I can only imagine in the 15 plus years you're doing this now?
Gosh, yeah. Well, yep, it'll be 14 soon. So
Right,
yeah,
so
it's
over 10
been a
years.
long time.
I'm sure thousands of guests.
Thousands, yes.
So Susanna is the owner and operator of Stay Gainesville. She, under her direction, has really grown to now a portfolio of well over how
60
many?
short-term rental properties. Yes.
And so for short-term rental properties, we all know now with Airbnb, but when you started, Airbnb wasn't even a thing,
Right.
right? So why don't we start there? Could you
Sure.
share a bit about the origin of Stay Gainesville?
I'm more than happy to. So with me, sometimes things start out as an accident, and that's kind of how this started out. We bought 7 condos right in 2006. And at the same time, so we had those, and the market crashed, of course. And so the rents went in half, the value of the condos went in half. It was a nightmare. And in the meantime, we had a property right next to our house that my husband wanted to furnish. And so I said, well, we don't need extra space, so I'm going to put it on VRBO. And so I did, and it got booked. And then a friend of ours was needing a place to stay, so my husband said, oh, you can live in our VRBO house. And I said, wait, but I have people booked. And so then this ties back to the condos. I had an empty condo, and I said, all right, well, I'll furnish a condo, and I'll see if people are okay with that as a substitute. And they were, because I gave it to them for free, just to get it started. And then it started getting booked, and then in the meantime, so we had originally had a business partner, and they walked, so we ended up holding the mortgage on and all the expenses on all 7 condos, which was never the intention. And so
And during the market
crash, actually it was 9, it wasn't 7. And so I furnished one, and then another one was empty. So I thought, well, I'll furnish another one, and then slowly, as leases ended, I would take them over and furnish them, and then rent them out short term, and then Airbnb became a thing, so I put them on Airbnb. But my condos they were I think they were built in the 60s, so they weren't super nice. So I kind of wanted to be able to offer more variety. So then I contacted owners of other places and did arbitrage for a while. And so I would rent a place long term, furnish it, and then rent it out short term with their knowledge and understanding. But then, of course, 2020 hit, and vacation rental properties were banned. And so that was another interesting turn of fate. So I stopped doing the arbitrage model and then started managing other people's short-term rental properties. And so that's kind of been the evolution. And fast forward, I sold my condos and then got a little bored. And so then an inn came for sale. And so I bought an inn downtown, and that was 2 years ago, knowing nothing about bed and breakfasts, and thought, oh, I'll just run it like an Airbnb. Well, that didn't work. So now it's still an inn with breakfast served. And then the neighboring bed and breakfast came for sale, and thought, well, it's right next door. We can combine them. So lo and behold, in May of this year, we bought another one, and I think I'm good for now. We'll see, but we're constantly evolving and trying to. A lot of our places are downtown, and so I live downtown. My 2 inns are downtown, and I'm a great believer in the downtown community.
So specifically downtown, you live in Duck Pond.
I do.
And
yes.
then you have properties throughout Duck Pond as well as downtown proper, and now the historic bed and breakfast.
I do. Yes. As well as other places, but a lot downtown.
So before you accidentally got into this business, share a bit about, what did you do? What was Susanna like before becoming almost the short-term rental queen of Gainesville?
Well, I have been quite a chameleon, I guess you could say. My first job out of college, I worked for my dad at an orange juice processing plant, and I was basically his assistant. And so I got to learn everything with finance, with basically everything. But that was not my end goal. So I had told him I want to live in New York, and I said I don't care what I do in New York. And so I looked online, and this was when you had dial-up and you had to wait like. So I kept searching online for different jobs, and I saw these jobs on Wall Street, and I had no idea what I was getting into. Wow. But I ended up getting an interview at one of them and ended up getting a job on Wall Street. And so I moved up there in 1999 and worked in sales and trading, and I worked on the fixed income floor, and then I worked on the equity floor. And then we were in a training program, and I got promoted. You either got promoted or fired. There wasn't anything in between. So luckily I got promoted. Nice. But then I had several life events. My father passed away unexpectedly, and then September 11th happened right down the street. And I just said, you know what, this is too much. So I stopped, and then I became a financial advisor for Merrill Lynch for 7 years. And then in the meantime, I started loving photography, so I was doing photography, and then I had a son, and I decided to spend more time with him. So when he was 2, I stopped working at Merrill Lynch, and then focused on photography, and then started designing clothing. I sound a little erratic, but then I started designing clothing, which I still do for fun. Right. And then all the rental stuff happened. So
did you feel that that period in Wall Street and having the finance background really prepare you to basically run the operations that you're running now?
Yes and no. I think it made me, living in New York is a lesson in itself. Sure. And so I felt like that was my graduate school. And my major in undergrad was psychology. So I learned everything about finance on the job. Wow. And that was kind of the purpose. They wanted to hire people that weren't finance people. Sure. And put them through. But it did prepare me. But so with the Wall Street job and with Merrill Lynch, I never managed anybody. So I was hot. I went straight into the boiling water with having to manage people, and I was terrible at first. And so I would say one of the biggest lessons I learned, which I had to learn on the job again by making mistakes and luckily I've got a great team, but I've learned hire slowly, fire quickly if somebody's not right for the job. Because if it's not right for them, they're not happy either. So, but it took me a long time to figure that out.
Fast forward to current time, do you feel like you're finally in the position to really do something that you wake up every day and even though there's a lot of stress and a lot of chaos, you're enjoying? Because there seems to be a good mixture of the passion behind it, I see, right? Because what I'm hearing, there's a parallel track where you've always been a creative person, right?
Yes.
And you've always followed something that your gut is saying, hey, let's go do this. But also at the same time, you did photography and you've done clothing. So you've always been an entrepreneur, but creativity seems to be what has been leading you in a lot of these things.
It is, absolutely. So I think one of the things that I've discovered is that I'm the idea person, I'm the creator, but I need an operations person to carry it out and continue it. So I'll think of an idea and I'll do it once or twice and then I'm bored with doing it. And so, but it's something that needs to happen. So right now I love what I do because I have such a great team. I've got a great innkeeper, I've got a great operations manager, maintenance team, reservations team, and they make my life so great. And I always tell them, you're not allowed to quit.
And what I'm hearing there also, based on the arc, it seems like you're making these big career decisions around some sort of financial situation, right? So 99, which is the .com a little bit, and you're in Wall Street.
Yes.
And then the 07, 08, and then you picked up the inn right around COVID, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
Just, it's always good to plan, but it seems like what the decision you made that would get you to that point has served you well despite external forces.
Right. I'm one to jump into things without doing all the prep work. I jump in and then I backfill, which I don't know if that's a good way or not. So I don't say that, I don't recommend that because I know, part of the things they're always like, have a business plan. And I never had a business plan. I just kind of like jumped in and figured it out, which works for me. I don't know if it works for everybody.
Well, what I'm hearing there is it's just a lot of faith and trust in yourself.
Yeah, I'm okay with making mistakes.
Right.
Yeah, so I think is something that has helped me along the way. It took me, I think, when I decided I wanted to design clothing, I said, well, okay, I'm going to design dresses with my photographs. So the first rendition I did was just on Photoshop.
Right.
And it was like, there was an old toy when I was little. It was like where you could make a dress with using plates. And anyway, so that was kind of what it was like. And then I posted it on Facebook and people said, where can I get that? And I said, doesn't exist. And so then I found a printer. Well, then I needed, it was just, I'm willing to just figure it out and go through whatever iterations I need to go through, and they're going to flop. And so I'm going to learn from that and make it better the next time. So I think that's one of the things about being an entrepreneur is that you have to be okay with things not working out sometimes because they're not going to. You're just going to have to learn from mistakes.
And so the clothing, the photography, all of your recent, I want to say the last decade, has been primarily built in Gainesville? Because you did a stint in New York, right?
I did.
And that was your grad school, and then you came back to Gainesville to build everything you build now.
Yeah, exactly. So I worked for Merrill Lynch in Ocala and then Gainesville. And then all the creative stuff but I've always loved creativity. So I think Wall Street drove me nuts because I was in an office all day and sometimes didn't see the sunlight. And so it was too much for me, I think.
So what is it about Gainesville that allows for you to really flourish in the way that you are now?
I think part of it, I grew up in Polk County, Florida, and so I grew up in the woods a lot. And so one of the things I love about Gainesville is all of the trails and the trees. And I mean, we have so many beautiful trails, and we have bison in Gainesville. And so part of my photography was nature photography. And so I really loved just going out on all the trails. But I also love the tight-knit community that we have here. And it's small. And I grew up in a town of 10,000. So then I went to New York, so it was like Goldilocks. Lake Wales was too small, New York was too big, Gainesville's just right.
Nice.
So what I love about it is the community and the nature part.
So let's jump a bit into the hospitality side. Did you ever imagine yourself being in the hospitality business?
Never, ever. No.
So you did Wall Street, and then you fell, and then now you're essentially running a portfolio of hospitality businesses.
Exactly. Right? No, did I ever? Absolutely not.
Do you feel now that you can see yourself as, deeply rooted in hospitality industry, or still
I
not?
could, but I'm always willing to pivot.
Right.
If something changed and all of a sudden Airbnbs got outlawed in Florida, I would be happy to move. But I do feel like I have so much experience in it that it would be silly to not do it while I'm, so, and it's ever changing. So that keeps me from getting bored for sure.
Sure.
No day is ever the same, which I like. And like I said, building a good team is the key to everything. And
Right.
I would say for me, I joined a couple of groups of CEOs and professionals so I joined one called Vistage, and I was in that for 4 years. And every month we would meet and they would have talks on big picture things and economics and how to manage people. And then I've also been in some women's groups for business owners. And then I'm also in a group sponsored by Keller Williams with Craig Wilburn locally. And again, they focus on how to create the business and kind of takes you back to the basics.
Right.
So while I didn't go to business school per se, I've learned my management from all these groups that I've been in. They've
And also
helped a lot.
a flavor that is more the peer-to-peer, right? So
Yes.
you're in a group with other owners,
Exactly.
right? That they can really share not just the happy, positive, but also all the aspects of running a
Exactly.
business.
So we would if you had a big issue with your group, you could say, all right, I have a really big issue, let's talk about it. And it was all confidential, but and it didn't matter if they knew nothing about hospitality. We had engineers, which I know nothing about, and we had lawyers and all sorts of people. And but it didn't really matter because it was more of an issue that a CEO deals with,
Right.
and how to manage that as a CEO. And so that was super helpful because I would say, okay, here's my issue, lay it out, and we did. And when other people would lay out their issues, it helped you as well, because we all have the same issues. So a lot of times, and so having that peer group was invaluable to me.
Can you share a bit more? You mentioned Vistage,
Yes.
right? So how did that come about, and how did you make the decision to join? And there's that camaraderie that you feel is part of that, and the problem solving. But it sounds like you said you were with that program for about 4 years.
Yes.
And that has helped you as an entrepreneur.
Tremendously. Yes.
So how did you, get, is it something that any entrepreneur could join, and how does that work?
So the way that I joined was a friend of mine who's a successful business owner joined a group here in town, but then created her own group. And originally she wanted it to be all female. So she approached me, Krista Blazer, a couple other female women business owners. But then other people caught wind, and it ended up not being a female-only one. So we had a variety of people, and so that's how I joined. It was a commitment because it was expensive.
Sure.
But I think it was investing in yourself, which was worth it. And then we also got, in addition to the monthly meeting, with speakers from all over the place. So they would fly in a speaker once a month, and there are 3 groups. So the speaker would speak in Ocala, Gainesville.
Got it.
And so we also had one-on-ones with our Vistage leader every month, which was super helpful. So she would sit down and say, all right, what are you doing?
Right.
Why do you want to buy that in? What,
Okay. So you get into the
nitty gritty
of the business.
Yeah. So you get questioned on everything. So why'd you do that? Okay. Does that make sense? It will. But it makes you think.
Of course. And that's a bit different than BNI.
I've never been in BNI.
Got it. Okay.
Yes. BNI is networking.
Right.
Which is a great thing too. I just
sure.
don't, I can't do a weekly commitment. I thought about it and I just realized I can't do that. But once a month is fine.
So this you found was the right time.
Yes.
And it really just impacted and become a catalyst for you to
Hugely.
to really, like you said, focus on building a team, focus on just creating a better foundation for what you already have.
Yes. Right. And I think part of it, I've always been super independent and, I can do that myself. I can do that myself. And Vistage emphasized, you need a team. You need a team. You can't, you got to build a team. Your company's only as good as the team you have. And then I've had other friends who are successful business owners say, you don't have a company until it can run without you. And I thought, oh boy, I so don't have a company. But now I feel like I have a company because it can run without me. And that's a good feeling.
So I think we're cutting into time a bit. I want to fast forward. What's next? Now you have a team, you're in the business, right? And I mentioned about hospitality because just watching you transition into that, hospitality isn't just about serving food or having a great place for somebody to sleep, but create the whole experience itself. Right?
Exactly.
So now with that foundation, could you share a bit about
sure.
what's next?
So with the Inns, I'm trying to showcase our local businesses. So it's fun because before I had the Inns, we didn't really have what would you call it? Kind of a space where we could gather other people. A gathering space. Yep. We had no central area. So the Inns, we can have classes. And so I've had wine classes, I've had candle making, I've had mixology, image presentation, how to age gracefully, just any kind of class that we can have, we'll do it. And also trying to emphasize that we can have events at the two Inns, and then people can rent both ends and have a bigger event. So that's the newest thing that I'm getting into, is figuring that out and how to hire somebody to get all that done. Because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes.
Sure. And as we see behind us, right? So Stay Gainesville has its roots in short term.
Yes.
But now with the Inns and also the property itself, you're looking to reimagine, right? Beyond just your classic bed and breakfast and classic short-term rentals. And what I'm hearing is more of the combination of what you've done is create more like a modern day community center, right?
Yes,
because
that's what I'd like.
Every hotels would have a place to gather, but that's more from a business standpoint. You come in, you do your thing, and you leave.
Exactly.
But this sounds also is something that is a much needed addition to the downtown area. That is not just for your one-off, but it's something that, hey, if you have something to add to the community, it's a place that you can feel at home, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's the other thing too, right? Is that just like Airbnb also has the experience side, there's just something unique about hosting a small gathering at a more homely feel.
Exactly.
Is that what I'm
yes,
seeing?
Yes, absolutely. Because we have a living room, we have a dining room, we have a kitchen area. So it's a home, but so when we have talks, some of them are in the living room, and you're just gathered around a fireplace, and it's so nice. And then for doing the cocktails, we can get in the kitchen island, and everybody stand around the table and get into it. So it's you feel like you're at home, but elegant, and you don't have to clean it up.
And also beautiful outside area.
Yeah.
You hosted the basketball team there as well too,
yes,
right?
We had.
And then you have cooking classes. So it's just a whole gamut of things that you've done.
We can do parties up to 70 at just one of the Inns. So it's fun.
So the next part there, do you see you feel like you're splitting your time a bit in regards to maintaining what was Stay Gainesville, which is managing for others, and now with this new endeavor, right? Do you see yourself also adding more properties, or just right now just
when the time is right? Yes.
Right.
Yes, I could, but selectively.
Sure.
Yeah, but we're still always adding on other people's properties to manage. If we've actually only advertised once. It's all been word of mouth, and so I'm not quite ready to advertise that because I feel like we're just at a great spot right now.
Sure.
But if somebody asks us, we'll add it on. But so I feel like one day I'll open the floodgates, and as soon as I get more stuff.
Well, to your point, right now you can walk away and the business will run without you. Versus, that's always the challenge for business owners, right?
Yes.
Is that once you blink of an eye, 20 years later, whether it's a plumbing business or a restaurant business, you feel like you always have to be there. And so it sounds like you're in a very good spot to say, I have the business, and now I can also, have my life as well in terms of enjoying traveling if you need to, and not having to constantly stress and worry about it.
It took me a long time to let go of that, but the day that I deleted the notifications on Airbnb, VRBO, the Gmail account, the voicemail account, I was just like, oh. And I knew everybody was being taken care of. In fact, everybody takes care of them better than I could because they're more detailed than I am. And so it was actually for everybody's sake, I realized later, oh, it's running so much better when I'm not putting my fingers into it every day.
Right.
So that's the beauty of having a great team.
So speaking of that, could you give maybe a guesstimate of how many guests that you've hosted since you started?
I mean, it's got to be thousands. I should probably go back and count at some point, but I'd have to combine all my Airbnb data, my VRBO data, my QuickBooks data, but it has to be thousands. It's been a lot. Yeah.
And being here as a business owner, I'm going to wrap up this last question. Do you feel maybe over the next 5 to 10 years, Gainesville is changing, or you feel like for the most part, it's just going to be, your college town that has a lot of visitors from a change standpoint? Do you feel like Gainesville is changing, or not at all?
I do feel like we're once again attracting businesses. I think it was not business friendly for a while.
Got it.
And I think it's now getting back to being business friendly with the hubs, the seed. People really focusing on getting downtown back up again.
Right.
So from that perspective, I do see Gainesville changing and evolving, and the Cade Museum, and just a lot of things that I think people didn't believe that the Cade Museum would ever get built, or that Depot Park would ever happen, and here we are years later. And so I do see that change. It's gradual, but it's good. And even the duck pond, we didn't know anybody in the duck pond when we moved in, and then now tons of families are there and kids, and I love that because I feel like, oh yay, it's booming now.
And that's such a rich history part of Gainesville, because you have the duck pond and you have downtown property now. With Cade and Depot, you have a bit more of called South Main, right? So you're starting to have a true neighboring neighbors, right?
Absolutely.
And now the businesses are really moving down to add the character that it sounds like we've been missing before.
Yes, and we're excited because we don't like to leave our little perimeter to go out to eat. So I guess Bingo and all the other restaurants that started opening, we were so excited. So it's just getting better and better.
And that's what I appreciate. So Stay Gainesville, for at least from a social media standpoint, you've done an amazing job of showcasing, yes, it's a great place to stay, but also look at all the things around.
There's so many things to do. Yeah. Yes.
So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you
it was a pleasure.
for doing this with us. This is fun.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, guys.